just looking at the offensive philosophy, are you guys pretty wide open on what you want to run, or are you married to one philosophy?
Well, I think I'll say this. I think every coach has to do a good job of looking at one personnel and what they do well, and kind of find a focus and kind of get good at something. I think it's kind of hard, especially nowadays, to get pinpointed into just saying, hey, this is our style and this is what we're going to do and this is how we're going to do it. I mean, just because if you look at just hypothetically, if you say, one of the top 5 playmakers you have are 3 receivers, then why would you take one of those guys off the game if philosophically you play with just 2? If that makes sense, what I'm saying. So, I think you just got to kind of look at that, and kind of let those guys kind of dictate on who's going to be out there the most for you, and then just kind of go from there, because those are guys that give you the best chance to win games.
Will your style change depending on who's quarterbacking the team?
Not so much. Not so much. I think, the grand thing about it, I think all those guys that are competing right now, man, I mean, they have things in common. Obviously, they have things that make them different, too. But, all of those guys can go in there and operate, kind of what we like to do in all facets of the offense.
Yesterday we saw Dawkins and Charleston in with the first team. Was that just the way the rotation worked, or have those guys made a jump?
Well, I think everybody's done a good job of making the jump. Right now, it's just where the rotation is. You like to kind of get guys matched up with different quarterbacks, so they're not just always kind of getting timing with one guy. So when they do happen to get in there rotation-wise, it doesn't throw that part of it off.
Do those 2 guys look like they'll be in your regular rotation somewhere this year?
If everything keeps progressing, I think those 2 have a good chance. Yeah.
Debo and Bryan, are you just being easy with them as they come back from the
hamstring? I think you got to be very, very careful with hamstrings. It's one of those things that obviously Debo last year, I mean, he was out all year with the hamstring, just because if you're not managing it the right way and you put him out there too fast, and then that's when you get the big boy where you're out 2-3 months, So, just trying to kind of prevent that and just gain strength and flexibility and everything else. But those guys are progressing really, really well. They did they did everything yesterday. So I mean, just kind of keep those guys coming on as well.
What kind of receiver can you see Debo being when he stays healthy?
Debo has a wide skill set. He's a guy that's he's hard to guard in the sense of, he plays with a lot of strength, very quick. Good hands. He can make those traffic catches, which is essential in this league, especially with how good DBs are, but also tracks the ball very well. Does a good job after he has the ball in his hand. So, I think he's unique in that sense, just because he can kind of do a lot of things across the board. So, to kind of pinpoint him down into what, just saying, who is he? He's Debo.
How is Lorenzo progressing at receiver?
He's doing better. The thing about that, it's a little bit different. A lot of people see a great athlete a lot of times and think that, hey man, he could just be a receiver, and in the sense of he's looked great out there and he's made some plays, but being a receiver is arguably you're going up against the other team's best athletes as well as at DB. So, and that's man to man every down. So, he's doing well. Obviously it's a new form. The learning curve is very steep, but it's very short. So he has to make sure that every single day he's gaining ground in that aspect. So he's doing okay.
Do you envision him as somebody who's in your regular receiver rotation, or somebody you kind of use in spot?
I think right now that remains to be seen. I think it's really, really early to say one way or the other, but I think he's doing well. He's doing well.
Is he a guy that you expect to get a lot of snaps tomorrow in the
Oh yeah, well everybody will. Yeah.
Bryan, especially when you are kind of working in a new offense, finding out what you have, how important is it to have a known commodity at kicker? So if it happens during the game, you have a guy who you can trust to go out there and play.
I tell you what, man, they're extremely important. They're extremely important, and it doesn't show up that you don't have one until you don't have one. So those guys, obviously, man, just the whole kicking game in general is so important just to any successful team. I guarantee, and I don't know this for a fact, but if you look back at who's been really good in our conference, over the past few years, I guarantee they're their kicking game or stat wise in the kicking game, they did really good too. So I think it goes one end, not just in the specialist program or not just in the specialist area, but just in your team in general. Just having everybody buying in and doing a good job on special teams.
How far would tomorrow's scrimmage go towards defining starting skill position roles?
I think every practice is just as important as tomorrow's scrimmage. I think tomorrow's scrimmage kind of goes into it just because it's another part of it. You're not out there on the field with the guys. You're not, remind them of this. You're not reminding them of that. Before and after each snap, you kind of just get a chance to send them out there and say, hey, go do it. So obviously, I think that's the most realistic, the most realistic you can get to an actual game and that aspect of it. So I think I think all of it goes into the evaluation of every player.
With so many freshman wide receivers, is there a certain number that you feel comfortable with having to be ready at the start of the season?
Comfortable with? Well, I'll say the plan is get them all ready to play. So, every one of them that we brought in, I'm getting ready to play for us. So, I don't know if that answers your question.
Will you scrimmage Debo and Bryan full?
Yeah, everybody's going tomorrow.
Because you're so young at receiver when you play Vanderbilt, are you expecting them defensively to just line up on the line of scrimmage and really challenge those guys from the get-go?
Well, I think when you look at Vandy, man, they're a veteran bunch, just specifically on defense. So those guys have played a bunch of ball. Those guys have seen the best that this league has had to offer and played against it. So I would expect those guys to do what they do well. Those guys do a great job of covering and getting after the quarterback and mixing up fronts and doing things like that. So I wouldn't expect anything different. Especially versus us, I wouldn't.
Bryan, do you have a number as to how many guys you want in your game day receiver rotation?
Ideally, you want to keep that number around 7 or 8. Around 7 or 8 is what you try to do. Because you like guys getting into the game, getting into the flow of the game, being able to play, being able to kind of work through a lot of different situations to feel comfortable enough out there to make plays. So I think in order to do that, you can't have too many, but you want to have enough where you're keeping people fresh, and constantly be allowing yourself to put pressure on defenses by playing fast.
Is Jamari still running one at the slot receiver?
Yes, he is.
Who's he working with there at that position?
So our slots can be interchangeable, but right now he still is. But it's a number of guys. Some of the freshmen are. Patrick Belton's there. Debo knows the slot real well. So yeah, it's kind of interchangeable.
How is he doing? Because obviously he's another guy that moved over from. He's flipped back and forth positions
Sure.
the last couple of years.
Sure.
Going from defensive back.
Right. Jamari, he's had a really good camp. Worked extremely hard. I think he's excited just to have a home right now, and where he's able to hang his hat on just learning how to do one particular position. And so he's done extremely well. He's worked extremely hard. He's in great shape, and he takes pride in getting the small details down. So anytime you have that, those guys all tend to work themselves into being pretty good.
You're working with a bunch of different guys with the return stuff yesterday when we were out there. Is there a specific number of guys who are maybe towards the top of that?
I think tomorrow's going to help in that evaluation. Just putting those guys in those reps, those situations to where they got a live covered team coming down on them, and seeing how guys are going to react that way, because it is a little bit different than catching one off the jugs and catching one off the foot when you got somebody barreling down on you. So to answer that question, I think we'll know a little bit more a little bit later on.
Are there any of your freshman receivers who will play this year?
Like I said, right now I'm getting them all ready to play. So if you ask me who won't right now, I would say nobody. I would say nobody. So just working hard and getting all those guys kind of caught up and ready to play, and just kind of we'll make a final kind of decision a little bit closer to game time.
Is Pollard exclusively a tight end right now?
Right now he has been.
Did you expect that?
No. Well, he has a unique skill set where he can kind of get moved around some, and I think I think he's at a position where we can utilize that skill set the best. So, did it surprise me that he would be moved into that position? No, it didn't.